Underneath the Tunnel from Absentia. Explained. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another thrilling and mind-blowing episode with Marvelous Videos. Get your horror gear on, because today we have one of the scariest movies for you. The plot of this movie has been created with so much originality and thunder that it is surely going to give you a lot of goosebumps. Absentia is a supernatural horror film which was released in 2011. It is directed, written, and edited by the amazing Mike Flanagan, who is known for making horror films. The excellent production has been done by FallBack Plan Productions. Now, because the movie is called Absentia, it is pretty clear that the film is going to be about someone's death. Well, let's just say that it is not how easy the film is going to proceed. Sure, there are deaths involved, more than one death, but how it takes place is going to blow your mind. Absentia has a rather slow and gloomy pace, which goes on pretty much through the first half of the film, and that ends up adding a lot more fear and stress for the audience. Trisha Riley is getting prepared to get some closure about her husband Daniel's unexpected disappearance. She finally moves forward by declaring him dead in absentia. She is visibly pregnant at the time, so expect a new man to be in her life. Her sister Kali, who is recovering from drug addiction, is also trying pretty hard to build a new life, and she moves in to support Trisha by being there for her and helping her by moving on with her life. But wait, that sounds rather simple, doesn't it? Well, how about we tell you it looks like Trisha has started hallucinating Daniel, and the story does not just end there. Even Kali seems to be seeing some strange things. So is it just because of her drug use, or is it for real? Now, without making you wait any further, let's find out what exactly is going on in Trisha's house and mind.
Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Walter.
Lambert. I'll bring you something later. I'll come back and I'll bring something for you, okay?
There are fates worse than death. Absentia 2011. So the film takes place in the small neighborhood of Glendale, California. In the opening scene, we find Trisha Riley, who was played by Courtney Bell, and she is changing the posters about her missing husband, Daniel Riley. We find out that he went missing 7 years ago. It looks like Trisha might finally be able to accept that he may be dead now. Daniel's missing person case has a new detective on it, Detective Mallory, played by Dave Levine, who seems to be pretty close to Trisha at this point. Now, Trisha's sister, Kali Russell, who was played by Katie Parker, comes to live with her and gives her a children's book, The Three Billy Goats Gruff, since Trisha is pregnant. You will soon find out that the tale from this book actually ends up solving a lot of confusion in the film. You might not know this, but Courtney Bell, who plays the role of Trisha, was in fact actually 7 months pregnant during the production of the film. And also you might remember Katie Parker from the Netflix horror series The Haunting of Hill House. Well, what you may not know is, Absentia is actually Katie's debut film. Now from the looks of it, Trisha is just about to have her husband's case declared as death in absentia. At night when Trisha tries to sleep, she starts having nightmares about Daniel, clearly because of her decision. A rather strange and horrific incident then takes place when Kali has gone for a jog. She crosses a tunnel nearby, which gives off a super weird vibe, almost as if that tunnel is being haunted. And we also find out that apparently lots of people and pets have gone missing in that very same neighborhood. So maybe Daniel's case was not just any ordinary missing persons case. It is not too late until we are sure that the tunnel definitely holds some kind of terror, because while returning, Kali spots a homeless man's body in the tunnel, a totally horrific sight because the man looked pale and wounded. Expecting him to be asleep, she tries to quietly walk away from there when the man asks her whether she can see him or not. Now that is something strange to ask, don't you think? Well, Kali tries to play it safe by telling him that she does not have any money or food or anything, but will come back for him with some food. The man has a terrified look on his face. He says that his name is Walter and he just keeps yelling the word trade, trade. Soon after going home, Kali actually decides to get some food for Walter, but the tunnel is now empty. No one can be seen inside, so she decides to leave the box outside. Back at home, Trisha is still having nightmares about Daniel, where he is trying to somehow harm her child. Oh, the film has just started getting interesting. Kali finds a lot of small metal things outside the door of her house the next day. So naturally she assumes that Walter must have kept them there. She takes all the things to return them to him, but just as she is about to leave the metal objects outside the tunnel, another weird looking guy walks up towards the tunnel, who seems to be carrying a plastic bag with something moving inside it. He warns Kali and tells her not to leave it there, and then drops the plastic bag and goes away. Now we do see Kali doing drugs for the first time since she came to live with her sister. Could this be any indication towards the weird things that are happening with her? Well, the next day, Trisha finally decides to go on a date with none other than Detective Mallory. Just when the two of them step out of the house, Trisha hallucinates Daniel once again, but she tries her best to ignore it. Only this time there is something different. It does not look like this Daniel has come from Trisha's imagination because clearly, Detective Mallory is able to see him as well. Now this is the part where you take a gasp. Everyone is shocked at this discovery. Daniel almost looks like some kind of ghost with pale skin and shabby clothes and a strange appearance. He is taken to the hospital and asks the doctor whether he can see him. Remember, that is the same thing Walter had asked Kali. So, could these incidents be related? It definitely looks like it. After going home, the detectives tell Daniel that there are animal bones found in his stomach. So where had he exactly disappeared to for all these years? Daniel clearly still seems scared, as if he will be taken away by something. Now, at night, Kali is doing drugs once again when Trisha goes outside to speak to Mallory. This is when the true horror begins. Daniel is reading The Three Billy Goats Gruff and says to Kali that it looks nothing like they say in this book. He also tells her that she should not have traded with it. Wow. Okay, that is strange that he knows about that. Then we hear a kind of creepy insect-like noise inside the house, and Daniel knows that it is here. In an instant, with a rush, Kali starts screaming and runs to Trisha and Mallory and tells them that the creature has taken Daniel away, and we have him missing once again. No one is ready to believe the things that Kali is saying because the house looks pretty clean and tidy and shows no signs of breaking in. They just assume that she has been seeing things because she is on drugs. But we have a fighter in Kali, who does her research about missing persons in order to prove her point to her sister. And guess what? She finds information about Walter, who apparently had gone missing as well. That too near the very same tunnel. She also finds a lot of other similar missing cases who have one common element, the tunnel. Just then the unbelievable happens. The detectives find Walter's dead body outside the tunnel, and they also arrest a guy who was carrying a dog inside a plastic bag. No doubt the missing dogs in the neighborhood were this guy's fault. As it turns out, he is the son of Walter. Now, back at home, Trisha and Kali hear the same noises once again, and looks like the creature has returned. It attacks Trisha and drags her towards the tunnel, and soon Trisha has ended up inside the walls of the tunnel. The detectives once again don't believe Kali's story about Trisha as well. The ending of the film has a twist that you would have definitely not expected. Kali puts all of her research files in an envelope for Mallory and goes to the tunnel. She starts yelling, "Trade, trade, trade," and that is when she hears the creature's voice. This is scary as it can get. Looks like right about now the creature gets out of the walls and Kali starts to run in order to leave the tunnel, but she does not make it outside. Leaving just one shoe behind, Kali is now gone forever inside the walls of the tunnel. After a lot of time, when we see Mallory putting up posters of missing persons for Trisha and Kali, it looks like for a second he saw Kali's ghost outside the tunnel, but when he looked closely, she was gone. And we find out that Kali can see Mallory walking away, but he cannot see her. The creature's limb is on Kali's shoulder in blackout. The film ends with all of them still missing. With such a horrifyingly exotic ending, let us now figure out the mystery of this tunnel. What is the tunnel? Before we tell you what the tunnel is all about, you will be surprised to know that Mike Flanagan actually wrote the first draft of this screenplay in just 2 sittings. In Absentia, even though Flanagan draws inspiration from a variety of legends about creatures that steal people from their homes in order to torture them, his main source of inspiration is The Three Billy Goats Gruff, a kid's book that Flanagan has chosen to reimagine in this terrific horror tale. So what basically happens in this story is that 3 billy goats who are all named Gruff try to cross a bridge which is occupied by a troll who wishes to kill and eat them. So each brother trades their safe path for the promise that if the troll waits for the next brother to cross, the troll will be able to eat a larger and taller billy goat. And finally, when the eldest brother crosses, he is strong enough to challenge and beat the troll, and so he safely leads his younger brothers to greener pastures. Now, in Flanagan's attempt to create something similar with this story, he comes up with this tunnel as compared to the bridge. And of course our creature could not be a troll, because it is more insect-like. And when the police were questioning Daniel about where he was for the past 7 years, at first all he could say was that he was underneath. It was only when Daniel was in Kali's room, holding the Three Billy Goats Gruff book, that it made him actually speak up about the creature. And so, before he is taken, he starts telling Kali that the creature is not exactly like the one they talk about in the book, because it is more like an insect and has skin like silverfish. So that is our proof right there. Daniel also tells us that the creature seems to be living in the spaces between, and he can hear it through the walls in his house. Now remember, by leaving food for Walter outside the tunnel, Kali accidentally ended up trading with the creature. The reason why Daniel told Kali that he wished she hadn't traded with it is because the creature apparently tends to fixate on whoever it trades with. When he is saying all of this, Kali is high at the time, so of course she has difficulty in understanding what Daniel is desperately trying to reveal. But this scene does show us that Flanagan is trying to remake trolls as arachnid or insect-like monsters. Flanagan never actually shows us the monster in its full form, and that just ends up being even more horrifying, because it definitely makes our imaginations run wild about what the creature could look like. Despite this, the creature does seem to have fingers that look like spiders' legs. Now, when Walter Lambert is found dead outside the tunnel, it would appear that now the creature wants someone to replace him. Remember, Walter's son Jamie brought animals to the tunnel. That was his attempt to trade for his father. So it looks like one way or another the creature did end up delivering his side of the bargain, even though that was not what Jamie would have wanted. So, we can say that through Kali's accidental trade, they got Daniel back. But now the creature has an empty spot and has to fill it. And so it chooses to take Trisha inside to its supposed other world within the walls. Towards the end, when Kali tries to trade herself for her sister, the plan does not work out as she would have hoped. Instead, the creature decided to return the unborn baby and wanted to take Kali for itself as well. So clearly this creature might actually be using its brain a lot. Even though Flanagan bases the monster in Absentia on troll folklore, he transforms the creature to be much more insectile and cruel. Flanagan also stresses on the folklore harsh realities of bargaining with legendary creatures. The creature in the tunnel technically fulfills the trade wishes of all those who trade with it, but it chooses to do it in the worst possible ways. Absentia's horror stems in part from the fact that Absentia clearly does not have a happy ending like the one in the Three Billy Goats Gruff. Rather, it ends with the creature still at large and unknown to almost everyone despite Kali's attempted sacrifice. And it would seem that the three goats in our film, Daniel, Trisha, and Kali, actually end up in the trap laid out by this brilliant creature. Absentia is not only one of the best horror creature features since 2000, it also leaves the horror fans in an absolute mess and chaos, because the characters that we end up sympathizing for never actually receive their happy endings or any form of escape. Well, with Mike Flanagan on board, what else can we expect but to be utterly speechless and terrified during the film? It is one of the perfect supernatural horror films to watch on any given night. Just turn off the lights and prepare to be creeped out.
And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.